you just need to surround yourself with good people. I couldn't have got the business to where it is now without the current business partners I have. So we've all got different skill sets, and it wasn't until certain people came into the business that I realised there were skill sets that I didn't have.
Welcome to another episode of my podcast, Relentless Life on Your Terms. I have a friend of mine who's been on the podcast before many years ago, runs a very, very successful finance company, who I'm sure you've heard of. He's going to tell us his story. People have called him, he's also in finance like myself, the second best looking person in the finance industry. Nick Reilly, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate. And I'll take second.
Yeah,
every day of the week, especially to you.
Yeah, very funny.
Anyone
funny
else,
guy,
I'd question it, but I'll take second to you for sure.
Only joking. And we had another very, very sharp-looking Nick on our show, Nick Bell, before. He was also on the podcast, but when I've got to say, I said the same thing to him. I say to you, you guys, you don't age. You look the same you did as 3-4 years ago since I met you. What's the secret?
Yeah. Well, European skin, maybe. I think that helps. I think it hides a lot of things.
Keeping fit.
Keeping fit. Balance, mate, all those things. Drinking a lot of water, not as much alcohol, all those things.
I drink wine and water. Jesus turned water into wine, so I think it's pretty much the same thing if you look at it.
Yeah, I drink plenty of wine too.
So now going back to the serious part of the conversation, Inovayt. It's one of Australia's leading private finance companies.
Yep.
Tell us how you started, obviously, to building an 8-digit turnover company, got 30, 40 people, 16 brokers, whatever it is now. Got a very successful financial planning firm attached to that and growing. Tell us about Inovayt.
Yeah, so we've pretty much nailed it. We have 40 people and we work across 3 main services. Finance, mainly residential finance. We have an asset finance arm as well, and financial planning. I've had that business for a long time now, since 2007. But I actually had a joke with some of my business partners yesterday, and I feel like we're a startup at around 2018, 2019, just from a change in direction. But
what was that? Tell me why.
We just changed the model, I guess, and decided we wanted to create a bigger business. Instead of being a business with contracted salespeople, we went into a PAYG model. With that comes a lot of investment, a lot of costs. So I felt like we changed direction in 2018, and I think what we were looking at was something on LinkedIn around the profitability of a startup, and money's pretty good when you first start up because you're pretty tight with money. You don't have many expenses. Then you decide to grow, profitability comes right back down, and then they talk about the J curve, and then you're coming back up. So I've been in business since 2007, but I feel like things really kicked off around 2018. And in 2007, mate, I was really just a mortgage broker. And,
your first job out of uni?
First job out of uni. I didn't enjoy uni. I didn't like the lack of work, as strange as that might sound for a lot of people. But I think uni, when I was doing banking and finance, was 12 contact hours a week.
At least you got into uni, Nick. I was at Broadmeadows, Dave.
Well, does it matter? Look at you now. So, yeah. Landed a job in admin in mortgage broking 6 months or 9 months into uni. From there, I was doing sales within 18 months. And then went out on my own with another business partner, and we just had someone supporting us. And we built up a reasonably successful mortgage business that had some contractors that came in and utilised our services as well. Did that for a little while, and then decided that I didn't want to be a salesperson. I actually wanted to create a business. I know that there's still sales involved in that. And so that's what we did. So brought financial planning in 2012.
I didn't realise it was that long ago you put planning.
Yeah.
I know brokings have been 17 odd years.
Yeah. Well, we started in risk insurance only. So I started doing risk myself just because I was bored of finance to a degree. And then I quickly realised within a couple of years that if we do risk insurance, we need to start doing full wealth. And in 2015, we started doing full wealth. But I started doing risk insurance in 2012.
So I know you've also got, you've built a great business. You've got 16 odd brokers alone, whatever it is, and always growing. And you're probably in the top 10 privately owned finance companies, which is a remarkable achievement.
Yep.
And I know you've also got a board of advisors, which we've got a mutual business advisor, which we've got Adrian, who helps us both, Adrian Hondros. He's got a consulting firm. When did you decide to put an advisory board to your business?
Yeah, it feels like yesterday, but it would be around 4 years ago now. And, I talk about the growth and, quickly realised that I was going into areas that I hadn't been in. And, what I mean by that is lots of staff, management, middle management, structures, HR, big cost space. So needing to strategize out for 2 or 3 years. So there was all these areas that we hadn't really been in before because, we were an SME or a small business. Just do the work, get the money in, pay a few people and move on. But I think when your business starts to grow, you've really got to be strategic about what you're doing and understand what could go wrong. So I quickly realised I needed some people around me that had done some things that I hadn't, and it was definitely game changing for our business. We had a discussion about this a couple of days ago, and there's always one or two key things a year that we take out of the advisory board that really help us with our direction in the business and where we're going.
And that really compounds the trajectory, doesn't it?
For sure. And it's it does a couple of things. It allows you to put your ideas through the washing machine, for lack of a better phrase, and get some unbiased opinions on what you're looking to do. But the biggest thing the board's done for me is accountability. And as a founder who brought my founding business partner out in 2020, I've brought some smaller shareholders in, but it's still very much me. So having the accountability piece of the board has been awesome. I think it's taken me to another level, and it's definitely taken our business to another level because you feel like you've got to succeed because you're presenting to the board on what your plans are.
It's a team. A lot of people don't want that accountability because as a CEO, I'm the boss and I'll do all this. But when you have that level of awareness or you want to grow, you don't mind bouncing your ideas off smart people like Ray Dalio talks a lot about in the book Principles. You want to have a lot of smart people in a room bouncing ideas. And as you stated as well, that have traveled the path that you want to travel, that understand, they have the battle scars to prove it.
Yeah, 100%. And once you grow a business to our size, and you would know this, but you've got a big fixed cost line. So the consequences of getting things wrong are now significant versus when you're a smaller business, you can, in a lot of cases, you can probably rectify problems or mistakes, but it's a lot harder to do that when you've got a big fixed cost line. So, I think going it alone, I think people are crazy if they do that or if they think they know everything. They definitely don't.
No one does.
And, I've got some really cool business partners now too. We all bring different skill sets to the business. I've brought some people in. But even us, we get caught up in our own little world where, we think we're doing the right thing. And then to go into an advisory board and have our decisions or our plans challenged is actually really healthy.
But it's also good to see fresh eyes because I use the analogy a lot that when you're in the ring, it's harder to see the shot, but your coach can say uppercut, hook, and you can, how does he see it? Because it's out. It's a fresh pair of eyes. When you're staring at something so all day in intensity, you go more stale.
Oh, but without a doubt. And you mentioned Adrian Hondros.
Yep.
So Adrian works with a lot of businesses like ours and yours. So he sees so much, for example. So, he would be knowing what's going on in other businesses, which gives him the tools to come to our business and say, well, have you thought about this? Because I might have seen this before and I know how this plays out. So to your point, when you're stuck in your own four walls, you don't really get out as much as you need to and you don't have the exposure.
You get emotional too because when you see something all day, it's harder to make a calmer decision. But what I also find, and in business, and I'm like yourself, entering my 20th year in March, it takes time to make the wrong decision. It takes investment, but also takes time to unwind it. It sets you back a lot further. And sometimes you can learn quicker, faster, better, more efficient by asking or seeking counsel or failing fast, so to speak, getting up quick.
Yep, 100%. And as I said, because those individuals that you're resourcing or that you've got coming into your board, they might have seen it all before. So you don't need to make the mistakes because they've seen other people do it, hypothetically.
Or you can do it quicker.
or you can do it
You
quicker.
you can learn fast.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So obviously, what were some of the pivotal moments throughout Inovayt's journey as a finance company?
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, I'd suggest there's probably three. The first one is when we decided, even as a small business, that we had a service that other brokers would want. So it was very common in the industry. I'm talking mid-2000s when I started the business, or sort of 2007. So it was very common to be a one-person band. So you're a mortgage broker, you go see a client, you do the loan application, you submit it to the bank, you follow the bank up. That was what most groups did. From day one, we had support. So we had admin people, and what that meant was we could write more business and be in front of more clients. Pretty standard stuff when I talk about it, but it just wasn't big back then. So we realized pretty quickly that what we had from a service proposition to other brokers was reasonably unique, and we could attract other people in. So I quickly made a decision.
Other people referring to brokers, team members.
Correct.
Yep.
So come into our business, leverage our back end support. I was also very good at attracting leads in, so whether it be real estate partners,
because you're good at settling them and you're good at doing the business.
Yeah.
You told me early on in your business that you had a couple key partners / referrers that knew that, hey, they'll get the job done.
Yeah.
So that was a big part in you growing your business.
100%. And I knew that that's what my strength was. So
relational capital, you mean?
Definitely. Yeah. And then being able to, it's all good and well to have relationships, but you've still got to extract leads.
Value.
So being able to go into offices, whether it's a real estate office, and put a plan together as to how this relationship's actually going to work. So made a decision pretty quickly that, okay, we've actually got a really good offering here for external brokers to come in. So back-end support so you can write more volume, and also lead generation. I'm good at getting that. I just need people to plug in and write the leads. So that was the first decision, and that's when we started to grow. And we, I think we ended up with maybe half a dozen to 8 contractors. The second pivotal decision was definitely moving into wealth. And I guess what I quickly realized is so much time and effort goes into building a client base. They're complementary services, finance and wealth. Risk insurance goes in line with debt. And then if you start talking about insurance and debt, then you're talking about long-term wealth. So I was challenged a lot on that decision because not many businesses did both very well. And it took a long time for us to get it running. But we're at a point now where I think there's more opportunity in the wealth space at the moment than there is in the finance space.
Finance is tough.
Just my opinion.
Yeah.
So very glad I made that decision. So that's probably the second pivotal decision. And the third one is definitely 2018 and moving to a PAYG model for our mortgage brokers. Again, unique at the time. And we had both models running, a contractor model and a PAYG model, which has had its challenges. We're at the point now where 80% of our volume is written from PAYG. A lot of investment to get that going. You've got mortgage brokers, you know how long it takes to get people profitable in your business. But such a stronger business now. Such a stronger business based on the fact that everyone works for Inovayt. Walks the Inovayt road, and we're in a really good spot now.
So the 3 key points. Number 1 was you went to a contract model to understand you had a great offering for people to harness their skills and to write more loans.
Yep.
Number 2 was to create a financial planning product, which is a complementary service, an ancillary service to wealth. It goes side by side with finance, I should say.
Yep.
And the third was to revert that decision, was to become pay an employee model based on that to scale.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And at the time, the employee model was very unique. And I'd say we're one of the early adopters of that.
It was expensive. Like a lot of people, it's easy to have a back end. And I know because I did both models as well.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's so important. Like contractor, here's the leads, you sell, we both make some money and we clip the ticket on the way through.
Yeah.
But as an employee, there's work cover, there's super, there's you've got to train them, you've got to perform, there's HR, there's so many more elements.
Yeah.
Yes, they do feel part of the brand, but the investment is significant.
Significant. And the biggest thing with mortgage broking is if you see a client today, you probably will not see money in your bank account for 4 to 5 months. That's standard, sometimes longer. So even when you bring a contracted broker on, it takes them a long time. And when a contracted broker comes into your business, they're just taking a percentage of the commission. So there's no outlay as far as
And they've got a base. No, contractor, sorry.
contractors didn't. So it's very easy to bring contractors in your business. There's no cost. But when you bring a salaried broker in, you're really not getting payback until year 2, in my opinion. If you look at, you're paying them day 1, how long it takes them to build a pipeline in your business, the salary you're paying in between then and that pipeline actually converting into funds.
Then the trail starts to grow or compound.
Yep.
You think it's around 2-year mark, huh?
For sure. For
Wow.
sure.
I thought it was about a year and a half.
I'd say 2. To get to not so much profitability, but to get to where you need to be, because not only have you got the wages of the broker, you've got all the processing of those
Time,
deals,
training.
all the admin staff that process those deals. Our brokers see clients, come up with strategies, it then goes into a big team. Our admin team is double the size. If we look at offshore and onshore, it's double the size of our sales
But
team.
not only that, what's the value of your year's experience? What's the value of everything you put into it?
Yeah.
What's the dollar amount of almost 20 years?
Yep.
That
100%.
How do you even put a value on that?
Yeah.
So there's the time, there's the experience, there's the millions of dollars of lessons that you had to learn.
Yep. And this is why in our industry, it is changing and evolving, but this is why there's been so few businesses that have done what we've done. Because as a mortgage broker, if you've got 1 or 2 support people and you're out there writing a lot of business, it's highly profitable if you've got low cost base. The minute you bring someone in to write the deals, that profitability absolutely goes. And you've got to be prepared to invest in the business and go backwards for a couple of years for long-term growth. And not many have done that. More are doing
willing
that
to
now.
do that though.
Or willing to do that, yeah.
I guess we my last guest I had on, you mentioned that everyone wants that success, that ability. Then this year, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, your goal would be you'll probably settle around about $1 billion.
Yep. Yeah, we'll probably settle about 800 million.
But that's eminent to the way you're going.
Yeah.
The amount of years that you've put in, and I would say millions of dollars worth of research and mistakes to get it to that point.
Yeah.
It's a lot of experience.
Yeah.
People want that. I'd love to settle 800 or $1 billion.
Yeah.
But that work that you put in, those years of sacrifice, not making much money. So I looked at my figures and someone was going, Chris, when did you start making money? I go, I don't want to tell you. They go, why? I go, because it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Was it that long? I said, well, because I started with minus 348 grand worth of debt when I started the business, not to move back into my parents. Took me like 6 or 7 years ago. What do you mean 6 or 7 years ago? About 6 to 7 years. Time I paid back debt and did all this and everything. They go, but you were living. I go, everything I was doing, I was putting back into the business.
Yeah.
I had key focus, eliminate debt, scale the business, get more sales. But by the time that all happens, it takes years. And it took me a bit longer because I never started from zero. Started from minus 348. So it took me a bit longer than.
Yep.
And I was younger too. I didn't have that experience, as I'm sure you didn't when you started.
No, I didn't. And everything you're saying resonates, and I think the biggest thing is when you are the business owner and you're still, you might be out there writing deals yourself or bringing clients in yourself, but to your point, that all goes straight back in, to fund everyone else and what you're trying to
pay
build.
For the mistakes, the errors, the time.
Yeah. And you got to pay for other people. So you're out there doing what you do, but you're bringing that money in so you can build your business. And again, that's the challenge, right? I've been a salesperson. I've been making money. That's great. The minute you start to bring people in and you start to bring fixed costs in, you start to realize that, I can be out there selling and bring money in, but it's not mine anymore. It's got to go back into feeding this business.
And sometimes when you're working, and I understand why people do it, entrepreneur is not for everyone. Entrepreneur is better. They work within a business. You're a good broker. You're a good sales consultant. You can make $200,000-$300,000.
Yeah.
$350,000 and you've got no overhead or minimal overhead.
Yeah, exactly.
To do that in a business is a lot more challenging.
Yeah.
What was some of you're closing to 20 years, what were some of the key lessons that you learned at Inovayt? Now, you said you had 3 pivotal moments.
Yeah.
What were some of the key lessons as a business owner that you learned?
Well, number one is I don't think I strategically planned enough. I was a good salesperson, so I just always found a way. So as a small business, I would always know that everything would be all right. Like, worst thing that could happen is we didn't have money one month. I wouldn't pay myself. I'd go get some more deals done and we'd have money. That's the way that I've always kind of worked, hustle, as you know. But what I've learned, particularly having a bigger business, as I keep mentioning, a bigger fixed cost line and strategic planning being a necessity, I've really learnt how important that is it also linked to goal setting, having a plan as to where we're actually going. I was never good at that.
Really?
I never gave attention
knowing you
to
the
it.
way I do, I'm very surprised to hear you say that, because you sound like a very considered person.
Yeah, look, I'm very good at I want to go here, but the nuts and bolts in between, it's not that I'm not good at it. I'm not saying that. It's just that I never gave it much attention. I was just confident that I'd always just
you weren't working on it.
Yeah, I was always working on it. But now with, again, a lot of staff and a lot of costs, you can't just say, well, we'll get there. You need to understand how that's going to happen. So, and we do a lot of work now with business clients that come into our business that need asset finance. It's not just about, okay, I've bought this, so I need this money. So, okay, where are you trying to go? Let's strategize for your growth a bit more instead of being reactive in your funding needs. So I've learned to strategize a lot more. And, I've had some good people come into the business as shareholders that have helped me with that, who have got that more analytical kind of brain. Whereas for me, it's just, go do the deals. So that's been a big lesson, and I can see the value that adds. The other one is you just need to surround yourself with good people. And, I couldn't have got the business to where it is now without the current business partners I have, because we've all got different skill sets. And it wasn't until certain people came into the business that I realized there were skill sets that I didn't have.
When did you identify they had the different skill sets?
Well, Jordan's a great example. So Jordan has been with me for 11 years. I mention him in every time I talk because he's just brilliant. He was just in an admin role, and he would come to me with, okay, we could do this better from a systems and process point of view. And this is someone who'd only been in the job a year, and I'd known finance for 10 years. So I quickly worked out that, all right, he's got a brain that sees something,
can analyze solutions.
He sees solutions. What he does really well is he sees call it a product, or he sees what someone else is doing in their business, and he quickly understands how we can then adopt that into our business. And that's not my brain, systems, processes. I'm more high level. So he was a big contributor to that. Marty, who's a business partner now and our sales manager. We need a sales manager when you've got 16 mortgage brokers. I don't know how he does it, but he manages to get people to the next level of performance every time. So just when they think they're capped,
bang,
he stretches them, and now that becomes the new norm. And when they think they're capped, he stretches them again. I don't have that skill.
It's patience, it's listening, it's incredible.
Yeah, so I think I've learned just by these people coming in and realizing, geez, they have a skill set that I don't have. So I just think organically over time as these people come into your business.
So he's also one of your co-hosts in your podcast, which
Marty
you run,
Vidakovic, yep.
Which is called Know Your Numbers.
Numbers Game.
Sorry.
Surely
Numbers Game.
Surely you're subscribed, mate.
I had your co-host on today as well, who's also
Jason.
A friend of mine, Jace,
yep.
Which is great. So tell us a bit about the podcast and why you started it.
Yeah, well, why did we start the podcast? It's a good question. And
you know why I said Know Your Numbers? I know it's Numbers Game. Yeah. That's what Jason said. He goes, we did this to know your numbers and it got stuck in my head.
There you go. So I'll blame Jace. I'll blame Jace.
No, it's definitely me, yeah.
We were flirting with the idea, Marty and I, of a podcast, mainly for our clients, because I think we know so much. Like, given what we do, particularly finance and planning, we know so much about business. We know so much about getting your wealth in order, and it's really valuable stuff that we all need education on that. We all need to know our numbers from a personal wealth point of view. So we started the podcast to really, on a wider scale, speak to our clients and give our clients some information. And Marty and I toyed with the idea, and then just out of the blue, Jason came to us, and we haven't even spoken to him about it. And he said, would you boys be interested in a podcast? And we said, fantastic. So we've been thinking about it. So we did it.
Tipped you over the edge.
Hey,
He tipped you over.
he did.
Yeah.
And so we did it really just to. There was a couple of selfish reasons, and most people would say to us, I assume it's generating business for you. And we think indirectly it is. It's very hard to quantify that. But the main reason we did it selfishly was to create content. Like we speak to our marketing team and they just want content. You guys know so much. You need to produce the content, but you never find time to sit down and do content. So a podcast was a good way to do that organically and kill two birds with one stone. And then we wanted to share what we knew about personal wealth back to our clients in our database. And we mentioned earlier, you and I were talking about Daniel from Cub. I spoke to him about it, and he said it's really good social proof for your business. So, if people are looking up your business and want to know if you exist, if they're thinking about using you, if you've got a podcast, that really helps. So there was a few reasons that led to me deciding to do it.
And a massive thing, I never knew. Jason told me you guys have over 200 episodes.
We are, yeah.
That's
massive.
massive.
We've been pretty hard on the episodes.
That's actually incredible.
Constantly recording. And again, from a selfish point of view, it's almost like if you've listened to the podcast, it's almost like therapy for us three. Like we're all running businesses, and the podcast started with personal wealth, but where it's gone is, right, what are the problems that we're facing as business owners, and what have we learned? Like as small business owners, growing bigger businesses, what are the pain points? All of our clients out there that are running small businesses, they're probably going through things, or they're about to go through things that we've already been through. So let's start to share those stories about our businesses and growth, as well as personal wealth. So that's been really cool. And again, it's almost become a therapy or a venting session where we just come in and we talk. And you get to the end of that and they become really good episodes. And we've got some awesome feedback from clients and even people that aren't clients, particularly on the small business stuff, because the stuff that we're dealing with, it's real. We're not business coaches. We're not going in and telling people what to do. We're just talking about our problems, and people can relate to that.
So Jason said he's going to share. He said episode 200 was amazing. He goes, you got to watch that if you're going to start watching our podcast. We just filmed episode 217, he thinks it was, which is numbers game, which you can have the slogan, know your numbers.
Yeah, know your numbers game, or know your numbers.
Or no, it can be the slogan. But Nick, and also on a personal note, it's a very, very exciting time in your life as well. I know fitness is very, very important part of your success as well. You keep very fit, as you can see. It's exciting times for your family. You just welcomed a new addition.
We did, yeah. Rosie GG Reilly is 4 weeks today. So, that's been awesome. Very steep learning curve, but loving every minute of it. And it's good, I'm happy to tell people I'm 42 now. So it's almost like I almost feel reborn to a degree because, you've
good
got
luck. I know what it's like. I got 4.
Yeah.
So I'm 45, I'm a bit older than you, but I know what it's like. There's a lot of challenges, but never a more beautiful time in your life. Very excited for you.
Yeah.
Now, as it's become a custom, are you ready for your quick fire questions?
Yeah, go for it.
What's your favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
The change. So what I mean by that is 17 years in the same business. And I think as an entrepreneur, if you're building a bigger business, your role changes all the time. So people say to me, how are you still doing it 17 years in a mortgage business? And it's like, well, we're not a mortgage business. We're a financial services business. And the reality is my role changes every 12 months. I'm CEO of the business now, and I was I was a mortgage broker 17 years ago.
It's basically evolution.
Evolution, and it keeps you motivated.
What's one career lesson you learned the hard way?
Make decisions quicker. Go with your gut.
Most of your decisions are from your gut. It is your second brain. A lot of great entrepreneurs go with their gut, listen to it because it is. Now, what's the first thing you think of when you wake up?
Now, my daughter, Rosie. Golf was probably the answer 6 weeks ago.
What's the best way to stay inspired in your work?
Young people. Bring young people into your business.
Fresh ideas.
Different personalities, different skill sets. I think one of my key strengths is outsourcing, and I put a lot of trust in people. So when people come into our business and I see something in them, full trust, and I give them a lot of responsibility. And that really keeps me keeps me nimble.
I think a great entrepreneur is a very curious one, which
Mm.
they've got to learn and trust as well.
Mm-hmm.
What is one thing you want people to remember about you?
Probably that, I'm humble and I'll do the work that's needed. I think as you grow a bigger business, I think you can easily not eliminate yourself from the business, but I think you've still got to be present. You've still got to be willing to roll your sleeves up. So I'd like to be known, no matter how big our business gets, that I was always there to help people and do the hard and the dirty work if it was needed to be done.
Sign of a great entrepreneur is not scared of anything because you'll roll up your sleeves and go again.
Yep.
What's the best compliment you've ever received about your work?
Probably being humble. Yeah.
And you do collaborate. A lot of people in our game, they think it's competition.
Yep.
Collaboration is going to be so much better for you and your clients and your business. It's such a big market.
Mm.
If you could collaborate with anyone, who would it be?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm not going to say an individual, but for me, I look at businesses like ours who are 10 years ahead. So in a business like ours, that means numerous revenue streams, advice-based businesses that maybe are listed on the ASX. That's the stuff that interests me. How do you get from where we are to that level, which is almost unthinkable or unbelievable for us? So when I look at people I want to meet now and talk to, it's people that are running those kinds of businesses.
A key thing that I shared with someone when people ask when they meet someone very successful, how did I get to where you get to? I think a better question is, when you're at my level, what did you do to get there? So you can actually get there faster.
Yeah.
You can say to if you're worth 10 million, someone with $1 billion, how'd you get there?
Yeah.
Or you can ask him, when you're worth 10 million, what were the steps that you took to get to $1 billion?
Yeah.
Because then you'll get there faster. And you'll also compare your chapter 10 with his chapter 10.
Yep.
I always thought that was helpful. What's the best part of your job?
Definitely people, and the young people, and seeing the young people grow and take on more responsibility. So the Jordan, for example, he's been with me 11 years. He's now a business partner. He's now GM of the group. I just love seeing that, because it's as much as it's great for me, because it gives me trust and means I can go on to the next thing in the business. You just love being the one that's created that.
You played a big part of that.
Yeah, a big part, and that's that really excites me.
It's always a good thing when you've helped someone's career. How do you define happiness?
How do I define happiness? As weird as this sounds, I'm going to say being content. I think if you're content to a degree with what you're doing, and you're not always chasing something else, that to me means you're happy.
What's one thing that always boosts your creativity? Sorry.
Podcasts, without a doubt. Listening to podcasts. You can do it anytime. The amount of things I learn from podcasts like this, I listen to Mark Burris' stuff a lot. Straight talk, yeah. And The Mentor sometimes as well. All different kinds of podcasts, sports stuff, mental health stuff. Always, it just inspires me.
You can learn something from everything. So mind feeding is very important.
Yeah, and it's a really good way to learn what other people are doing. Yeah.
What's the most important trait for a leader to have, in your opinion?
Awareness, hands down. You need to be aware of what's going on in your business. You need to be aware of other people's emotions. Like, if I think about everything I've learnt from having people come in and out of my business, it's just the awareness of what's going on around you. And I think when you're leading a business, you can easily become unaware for a few reasons. I love that word, awareness.
How do you handle difficult feedback?
Well, depending where it comes from, I guess. No, I'm just joking. I think you got to take it on board, and I do get it a lot, but it's never that bad. Look, I'm very trusting and collaborative in our own business. So there's not many decisions I make without two or three of the main people in our business being along for the ride. So, the negative feedback I get is usually not that significant, because the big decisions, I'm always bringing other people along for the ride. You take it on board. As I said, I've always trusted in other people. So you take it on board. I try not to respond quickly. I go away and think about it.
It's always good advice.
Yeah.
If you're respectful and you understand why people are saying it, it's the
Yeah.
way it's delivered
Yeah.
and the way I think listening is important. I'm reading a book at the moment called Difficult Conversation. That's very, very
Yeah.
good for that.
Yeah.
Having them,
Yeah.
but also receiving them and how you respond.
Yeah, and awareness plays a role in that. You need to be aware of other people's perspectives or other people's views as well. So, again, I'll go back to that word. I just think it links in so many good qualities. Start with awareness.
Yeah, good and understanding. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on the podcast?
10.
There you go.
I'd go 11 if there was an option.
Nick, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
Please subscribe and also have a look. We'll put some of their podcasts as well, which is Numbers Game. Know your numbers. Numbers Game. Jason also said, check out episode 200 if it's your first episode you're going to check out. And they're currently almost at 220 at the moment. Thanks for being on this podcast, Nick.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate the opportunity.